Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and thank you so much for joining me today on the Friday Masterclass, where today we're going to be talking about the art of color grading. And while I've covered color grading in many flavors over really the last couple of months. In fact, we've revisited color a couple times in Premiere using things like selective color tools in Lumetri, some of the basic controls, just really starting out with color, working with LUTs. More recently, we talked about some of the new additions to Premiere Pro for working with log footage and iPhone HDR footage and some of the new features that we brought in there to auto tone map, particularly if you're working in log or HDR. I'm bringing on a very special guest today who's not only going to give you and share a lot of tips and tricks around his personal techniques, but also really the psychology behind a lot of it and why good colorists make good choices. I do it just because it feels right. But that's kind of the idea is why does it feel right? How do we get to those places and how do we really express and change a scene entirely with color? So really excited to bring him on. But before we get there, of course, a couple of quick shout outs to people watching. Of course, we're coming to you live across YouTube, Behance, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, and the FBs. So what's up, Sam Peterson, Umacorn, Gino, Roberto, Rob Prod Games, Sheik, nice to see you. We've also got over here Sam Cridlin, and Maya, and Wasim, Stephanie, Burke, McLean. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for joining on LinkedIn. Great to see you. Okay, now before we get started again, I think I'm going to start making this a tradition on Fridays. My little before we start musical rant. So last week we talked about this Sergio Mendes remake that I'd heard. Well, today I heard a remix that just came out a week or two ago around a Beach Boys song. Now, just really clear, I love the Beach Boys, but this one in particular, it was done by Steve Aoki, who we had on the Mac stage, I think, last year. And Steve's a good guy. I'm not, particularly a fan of that style of music, but certainly very accomplished, good dude. But he did a remix of the Beach Boys' Fun, Fun, Fun. Now, in particular, I am a bit of a Beach Boys purist, so I like the early period, but I actually embrace the sort of post Pet Sounds, even like 68 to 76, 77 period. There's some really great lost gems in there. So I love the Beach Boys. But Fun, Fun, Fun is not among those songs that I love. Now, besides that though, to have a sort of EDM remix of that in 2023 seems really odd, particularly when you have lyrics talking about hamburger stands and fun, fun, fun till my daddy takes the T-bird away. What? Who is this for? It is awful. It's the worst. I mean, it's awful. And why that song? So many other great, especially if you're gonna do an early one. So many good ones. This, just lyrically, you're like, hamburger stand? Meh? T-birds? Like, what is that? Why? Anyway, again, Steve's a good dude. Great, super successful, all the best. Who made this choice to do that remix? I have no idea. It's a bad one. But please listen to it. Give him some streams. If you like it, tell me. And if you've heard it, tell me in the chat. I don't know who that's for. And again, very, very odd song choice. So with that, my friends, that's the end of my musical rant. I'm going to bring on my next guest. Now, he started working for Adobe just a couple of months ago. Some of you may have met him at the NAB conference in Vegas back in April. He's joined my team as a senior community evangelist focusing on community relations in the video space. He's an amazing video editor, photographer, colorist. You've probably seen a lot of his work all over the place. And he's also one of the kindest and nicest people I've ever met, which is why he's on our larger evangelist team. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Esteban Toro. How are you, Esteban? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, I'm so honored to be here. You have no idea how many times I have, watched your streamings, and I have never imagined that I will be in one of them. So I'm so excited to be here. And hello, everyone who's joining us today. It's really cool to be here. I'm really happy to be talking about color. It's something that I feel super passionate about.
Well, that's part of how I kind of found you, right? And one of the things that I identified early on with your work is that you really, I mean, again, and I think maybe it's partially because you started sort of in photography too, and you can talk a bit to this, and I know we're going to see a little bit of your reel just to kind of give people a flavor of the kind of stuff that or the kind of approaches you take, but the way that everything I saw of yours, and I'm not using any hyperbole, and you still have they can still go to estebantoro.com, is that
That's
right? Your
correct.
site to check it out? Okay, so
Yeah.
estebantoro.com. Um, the way that you used color really instantly, and particularly with some of your films, I just had emotional connections and real sort of reactions to the way that you worked with color. And I remember in one of them, I was like questioning you, how did you do this? And you're outside in the desert with all this bright light, and yet you have this incredibly vivid and very sort of contrasting looks that just seem almost Photoshop painted. And this is before generative fill, so I know you weren't doing that. But you really sort of emphasize and open up the idea of the psychology behind it. And I know you're just very, very passionate about this. And this is why I'm so glad you're part of the team, but also why I wanted to bring you on today. Also want to mention to everyone watching, if you've seen, we've been posting about some of our video meetups and mixers. Esteban will be in Los Angeles end of next week for the Cinegear conference. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
In LA. And then we have a mixer on June
5th and 6th.
June 6th.
Yeah.
So if you're not aware, if you're in the Los Angeles area, if you go to reddit.com and go to the premiere subreddit, or you can go to my Jason_Levine subreddit, you can find the signups there. Quickly sign up for that. Pay Esteban a visit, shake some hands, talk tech and stuff, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. So Esteban, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to your screen, and maybe you can kind of walk us through. I can already see we've got this, one of the many gorgeous images, and there's your site there for anybody. Again, it's estebantoro.com, and let you kind of talk through some of the magic you've got going on here.
Yeah, so basically what you're seeing here are some of my photographs. I do a lot of photography and filmmaking, so I'm all the time with most likely one or two cameras, just taking pictures and getting like some films as well, some short films that then I put together for some other purposes. And that's what I have done for several years. I feel more than 14 now. And yeah, I remember the movie you're talking about is actually a photograph dice that I filmed back in 2016. And I filmed it for an artist, a Californian artist, whose name is Jean-Paul Bourdieu. He's originally from France. His work is amazing. I highly suggest you to go and see it. And that was super challenging because he's the master of color. He really understands color as no one that I know. So that was like, okay, how I'm gonna actually film a movie about his color and about his work. That was super challenging. But anyhow, so what I just wanted to show you a little bit so you'll get a sense of the type of images that I love to capture. I love to travel, go to different places, remote locations, and exchange with different people, and just capture images of them. Yeah, so this is a little bit for you to see. You can see more on my on my website. You will be able to see my movies and the series that I filmed with Sony back in 2018 that we released in 2020. I want to say it's all there. So if you go to Portfolio, you'll be able to see all that. But just for you to get a feeling. We will be talking today about color, and as I said, this is a topic that really it's like, how do you start talking about color? So first of all, I want to show you a tool that we have in Adobe that I found super useful. If you go, I already opened it, but if you go like color.adobe.com, it will take you exactly to this place. It's basically a color wheel or a chromatic circle, and here you'll be able to choose different type of colors and understand what will be a good pattern to mix that color that you like. So let's say that I want to create something a little bit like, I want to go complementary. So basically that's going to be like contrast colors. Yep. So if I say that I want to pick like, I don't know, I just move this around here and I choose this kind of yellowish, kind of going to the green, it will show me complementary colors that if I match this color, if I put them together, it's going to create contrast. It's going to create something, like that's going to catch the eye, because our eye will be all the time like seeing these differences, and then we will pay attention basically. And that's really important for any director or whenever we're sharing any story.
And is this something that you actually that you've been doing? Because this is, by the way, for anyone watching, so color.adobe.com. This is also the color module that's part of Adobe Capture, for which you can create color swatches to be used in Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects. So have you been using this tool for a long time?
I have used it. I mean, I remember that. Uh, Let me put it this way. I kind of already memorized this color circle
Yeah.
by now. So, but whenever I need to find inspiration, I go
Yeah.
here. I especially use it when I'm teaching because
Oh,
people is
okay,
like,
sure.
I don't see color. Like, how
Yeah.
how do I find the contrast? I have no idea, and I have found that a lot of people have no idea that this tool exists. Not only the Adobe one, but the chromatic circle. So I
Right.
really love to start that, and then you can see like, so if I mix like this kind of bright red with this bright green, that's going to produce something good. Yes, it will. So that's
Love it.
that's basically how you can, like, I love to think about like complementary colors, but there are many options to that. Like you can create like analogous colors that are close to each other, or you can go
Right.
monochromatic, or like there are multiple ways. So in case that you have found yourself without inspiration, color.adobe.com, that'll be like a tool for anyone to go.
And I love that you kind of point out you use it as a teaching tool, because I fall into that very category, and I've said it many times here. I've said it to you. I mean, I didn't study color theory. I know what I like, but really, oftentimes I don't know quite how to get there. I mean, I can
Mhm.
envision it in my head, but I don't know what those complementary tones should be. And having this, actually using it in the browser even more so than on the mobile, it really just gives you the big picture of, oh, this all makes sense, and this is what
Mhm.
these are the things that I should be moving towards if I want to go for this particular look or feel. And then you can truly use how it's making you feel as you're looking through those complementary monochromatic swatches to know that, oh, this is the right choice.
And there are many tools online. You find multiple tools that you can even download, like a screen grab from any movie, and you can just upload it, and then it will show you the color palette if you want to find some inspiration. So, especially whenever you want to look for inspiration, I feel that's the place to go. Like, try to find tools that help you see color if that's a challenge that you have been facing. Like, yeah, that's how I see this tool. But to your question, like, I feel sometimes I use it, sometimes I come here and I'm like, I don't know, like I have this green color and I need to, let's say, I'm going to record something, and then I just need to find like a complementary one. So I just go like, okay, what if I use this exact color of green?
Mm,
And then it's like, oh, I can use like this bright purple, or I can use this dark purple, or magenta, whatever. And
nice.
like I can just decide how to use it. So that's kind of like a first way, or first way to understand the color. That is understanding the tone that you want to create in your movie.
Yeah.
And then it goes to, and it depends a lot if you're exclusively an editor or if you also film. In my case, I film majority of the things that I edit.
Right.
So I have the luxury of just choosing what I'm filming.
Right.
Uh, so that's when it's important to understand how you want to film. So there are basically three things that you should know about color. This is super broadly, but it's like you can record raw raw files that you can then post process super intensively in post production. You can do like camera profiles that are already integrated to the camera, or you can, like recently with like the mirrorless cameras, and even a little bit before that we have the log profiles. So in my
Right.
case, I usually film with Sony, and so I will be using S log color for my camera. That being said, I'm gonna say something that is super controversial.
Okay, Leia, I just put we're side by side now, so
Yeah,
you're half the screen as you approach this. Yeah.
I don't use S-Log on my camera. And there is a reason for that. It's a practical reason. I just want you to look at my work for 1 second, and then you will realize something. These are scenes that are happening in front of my lens really fast, and I don't have the luxury of taking my camera, switching the color profile, going S log, shooting a video, and then going again, switching, and having a raw photograph.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it during some time of my career, and then I was like, oh man, I'm missing moments because I'm just struggling with, the functioning of the camera.
Right.
And then I decided that it will be a good trade-off just to shoot with the camera profile and put more effort and more intention in the color that I was recording. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that it doesn't bring us the same level of color editing that you can have when you have a S-Log. Although I have to say, it's not raw. So if you give me a camera that is shooting raw, of course I'm gonna shoot raw.
Sure.
Um, but S-Log, so I decided to go with my camera profile. All right. So that being said, I have a couple of clips here that I have recorded in the past, and I want to show you. I want to talk about my next point, that it's like color when editing, and I want to talk about color correction and color grading. I want to ask in the chat that you guys tell me, what do you think color correction is, and what's the difference with color grading? But while we get some answers, what do you
Yep.
think, Jason? What is the difference between the two of them?
Well, my understanding's always been sort of the correction is it's a single change to either sort of pre-prep or post-prep a
Yep.
single image or shot, and then the grading is the over time process of which can include matching to other scenes, other shots, but over time.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. There is no right or wrong answer with
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
What are we getting on the chat?
So let's see. It's coming in a little slowly. People are talking about color correction is using things like LUTs,
Mm-hmm.
and then color timing is color grading. So again, over time. Let's see over
Mm-hmm.
here. We have color correction is just like in Lightroom, where you're doing the basics, and then color grading is where you're adding an overall look to everything.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I
Fair
mean
enough.
within the realm, I think.
Yep. Okay. Great. So the way I understand color correction to me is making sure that the clip that I'm editing looks as it looked with my naked eye when I was just
Yeah.
filming it. And
Yep.
color grading is giving the intention, is giving the tone that I want this clip to have. It's like,
Right.
do I want it to warmer? Do I want it colder? Uh, and that's gonna give emotions. That's gonna make the viewer feel something different. And
Yeah.
those are the things.
And D. Joffe just commented, color grading is the artistic approach. So
Yeah,
there, to your point right there.
yeah, yeah.
I like that.
So many times you will find yourself doing color correction, but that doesn't mean that you're color grading. And that's what I think that's the next step between like just fixing the color, matching different scenes, matching different clips or scenes with creating something and proposing something with color. And that's where it becomes like super artistic, super subjective and personal. But that's my favorite part about color.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna take any random clip. I don't know. You pick one, Jason. Which one you like over here over my screen?
Uh, I'm thinking, yeah, I was gonna say that blue. Again, they're a little small for me to see. Either that blue one there, or the on the bottom row, that second from the right, that looks like cathedrals, kind of in silhouette.
What? Cathedrals in silhouette. This one over here? No,
Other
it's oh
side,
no,
on the right side.
on the right side over here.
Yeah, the second one though, right next to it.
Right next to it. Okay,
That one. Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
You just chose a really difficult one. All right,
yeah, yeah.
that's intentional.
Yes.
All right, let's try to bring this to the timeline. Just FYI for all of you, I already like selected like a piece of the a chunk of the clip
Sure.
that
Yeah.
I know
You've
works.
got your in and out point there. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna create an adjustment layer. I can just go to my new items over here, and I'm just gonna create a adjustment layer. I'm just gonna make sure that it's like the specs of my clip. I'm gonna bring it to my timeline, and with that, I'm gonna be able to adjust the basics of my clip. Usually, I will have at least 3 adjustment layers when I'm coloring, when I'm doing like color correction. So how this image will actually look when I'm working, like when I will see it with my naked eye, probably it will look something like this. Let's try to be fair with it.
Mm-hmm.
It will most likely look
Yeah.
something like this.
By the way, just that simple change over now, we're seeing a little bit more of the shadow detail there,
Yeah,
right?
you
So, yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
how, like all the
Mm-hmm.
information. But then intentionally, when I was filming this particular scene or this particular shot, I was making sure that the sun was not going to be overexposed.
Right.
And that's when it becomes like color and in general exposure becomes like you make it conscious according to what you how you're going to post process, because I know that I'm not shooting raw. As I said, I'm not shooting S log, so I have to be super aware that I'm getting as close as I can to the final shot. So do I want to color correct this as it will look with my naked eye? Probably not. This is not looking
Right.
beautiful. It
Right.
was better before. So I'm just gonna come and see, and I'm just gonna come here. And instead of just going and trying to make it look like it will look with my naked eye, I'm just gonna go creative with it. So the first thing that I feel is that yes, I have a lot of detail in the sun, which I think is, yeah, it's completely, you have all information there. I think that's absolutely great. I'm just gonna increase a little bit the exposure. I want to recover detail here on the sky.
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to decrease a little bit of the highlights. So I will still have detail on the sun, but I already have a little bit more of detail here in the sky. And then I could play with the general feeling of the temperature. So I could, let's say, increase this, and this is the beauty of being conscious, being aware of when and how you record. This is a sunset, so even if I make it like super, like if I increase my temperature over here, you will see it.
Yep.
If I increase it here, it still makes sense. Like it doesn't look fake because those are colors that could be potentially real.
And that's a really excellent point, man. And I talk about this a lot in the past. We're sort of talking about just like shooting basics or being really conscious of the exposure levels, because if it's over, I mean, even in raw to some degree, right, or HDR,
Mhm. Yeah, right.
if it's super blown out or the shadows are super crushed at the capture stage, I mean, yes, you can do a bit, but it's just a lot more work than if you
Yep.
just kind of get it right initially. Again, even in this case, using a profile, not raw, but making sure that that sun wasn't over bright, overexposed, so that you would lose the detail there and that it would become too much of the centerpiece and obscure the rest of the shot. And here you have this like beautiful kind of darker gradient in that sky, in that sunset sky. It's really really wonderful.
So you mentioned something really important, and I want to. I brought this exactly. I let me just. I made you pick the clip, but I'm gonna just jump into these two clips over here. I'm gonna just include my like a new
By the way, while you're doing
second layer.
that,
Yeah.
Gino Marbella is asking, would you take into account color palette before the shots, as in props, etc.?
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. To that question, just let me show you an example
Mm-hmm.
over here with this clip. So if you notice, like I'm just mixing colors. I'm just thinking like the day before I go to the sand dunes. This is in the Dead Valley in California. I'm just considering like, okay, what's the color she's gonna be wearing the day after?
Mm-hmm.
So she's my wife. I'm just, we usually when we're traveling, we carry a bunch of dresses of all colors and all sizes, like lengths
Yes.
and stuff. Like that's what we do, and then we pick the color according to the location. I will usually visit the location the day before, and then
Mm-hmm.
I will be like, oh, okay, this color I think will work. But if you find
What a
yourself in
bunch
that
of
situation,
nerds.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Right. Right.
If you find yourself in that situation, just and you're like, I don't know what color to bring, that's where you hopefully have connection, and you go
mm,
color.adobe.com, and then you see like, oh, this look okay, this location, this is the color. Okay, I can mix it with this one, and that will work.
yeah. Nice.
So that's how I'll do it. All
That's
right,
awesome. Okay.
this specific shot. This is a sunset. And before I start going to do some adjustments, I just want to show you that if I increase here the temperature and I make it warmer, and I can even make it, I can change the tint and I can make it like a little bit pinkish, or I can go a little bit greener, it will still look legit. Let me just make a couple of corrections here. I'm just working on this panel here in the Lumetri panel. I'm going to decrease the highlights. I'm going to increase a little bit of the shadows, a little bit of contrast, and I'm adding a little bit of temperature. Let's see how it looked before and after.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Cool?
even just a couple of subtle sliders, there's so much more detail in the clouds and at the top of the shot there. I mean, and again, this is, I think, this is what I was saying before, right? You had to be so careful with that sky because I imagine it was bright as heck,
Yeah. Oh,
through the
yeah.
viewfinder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
does it still look like a sunset? Like a legit sunset? The colors,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's see
Can you
what
play
people.
this, by the way? Is that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, let
Yeah.
me. This is slow mo. So
Yeah.
let me
Scale it up. Yeah.
just scale. Yeah, cool. Um, this is during the day, same location. Now I'm gonna do the same with temperature.
Mm,
Does it look like a sunset?
yeah.
Can I fake a sunset?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you can. Now, again, in this case, would you be trying to match that same time of day here, just different angle, but trying to
No,
achieve the same look? No. Okay.
I will most likely not try to put these two clips together
Mm-hmm.
because the difference
Okay.
will be like will be there is no
Yeah.
way I can match this one with this one.
Right.
So what I'm trying to show you all here is recording choosing the times you record is extremely important if you're filming. Of course, if you receive, just the footage and you're editing, you just have to work with whatever you have. And if
Mm-hmm.
they send you these two clips and they tell like, oh, I want it to look the same, you'll be like, ooh, that's a
Right.
big challenge. Most
Yeah.
likely you will have to have a conversation. But anyhow, like, yeah, I will not put these two clips together. I'm going to go into the clips that I will put together in a second. I just want to
Right.
show that it's basically impossible to make something that wasn't a sunset look like a sunset
Yeah.
or blue hour or anything like that.
Right. I
So,
mean, and again, I imagine with LUTs, I mean, you'd be over processing it to fake it. But I think to your point when you asked me, does it look like a sunset? Color wise, it sort of feels it, but then you look at the sky and you're going, well, that's clearly not
the
end of day.
blue,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
like,
So you'd really be processing everything. You could turn it into that,
not as
but
much as
not
this.
as much though. Yeah. Right. It's probably never going to look quite. By the way, you're getting a lot of comments on the rays through the rays through the clouds. People
Uh-huh.
loving this shot. This is an amazing shot too, and
Thank
just the
you.
mist and everything, and yeah, really
So
captured that.
basically, that's like how I'm gonna process each clip. And then you touch on a point that was really important, how the clip is gonna play with the clip after and the clip
Yeah,
before. And that's super, super important because that's you and your decision as an editor and how you play with it. So I have different options. I brought here, let me just zoom in for you guys. I know I have like I'm just seeing my screen here. So but these are some of the clips that I brought. I brought some images that are taken during daylight and some others that are just like during blue hour or sunset. Um, so I could play with it. The first thing is if I want to match colors, I can play again. Like if I will be looking at my circle over here, if I will say that I take the complementary colors, or no, let's say I take the analysis, and I just go over here. Sorry, I'm just gonna take the picker.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, cool. Let me just move it. All right,
yeah,
it's oh yeah, I just have to move this one. All right, cool. Um, I can see that it's actually offering me like a different, like kind of like smooth transition of yellows from yellow
yeah.
to orange, and I could imitate that. And let's see how that works. So if I need that, I have these clips over here. So let's say that I bring this one first. I'm just gonna bring it to my timeline. Yeah, keep the existing settings. That's fine. And then I want something a little bit, but this is like the yellowish one that I have. And then I can bring this one as well.
By the way, as you're doing that, I was going to get to it. I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe you're going to cover this in a bit, but we just got a question, and I was going to ask you too. At what point or when do you ever rely on your scopes, histogram, waveform, particularly with things like overbrights and shadows, but in general, maybe in terms of matching too.
Yeah. When I'm playing with my images, I don't want to like when I'm getting the feeling of how this I want this movie to look like color wise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play with that as much. When I'm like when I already have the feeling and I feel like okay,
Right.
this is already working, that's when I go to my scopes because
Yeah.
the scopes are basically making sure that wherever I feel I export this movie to and
Right.
it's
You're within the
displayed,
limits. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna display it as I want.
Right. And that's actually a really great point because I think a lot of newcomers to this might get caught up in all right, as I'm correcting or as I'm doing my initial artistic look, let me make sure that those highlights aren't, out of range or the shadows aren't too crushed. But then that kind of destroys some of the artistic delivery. So again, you could use an adjustment layer at the end to really, sort of better control those things to
All
still
right.
preserve your vision, but just keep it within the legal ranges of whether it's YouTube or Hulu or anything like that. That's a really great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this timeline over here, I haven't worked on anything color wise. I just picked like 4 different clips.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't prepare like this sequence before, so I'm just playing with the clips that I have. So if you see, like I haven't even started coloring, but just by picking kind of relatively similar colors, I'm already creating that transition that is like smooth, like feels like the colors are not progressively changing as
Right.
much as if I will do something like this. So now I have this super yellow color, and then I just go with this super blue shot, and then I can go with something even totally different like this. So let me just make sure that this is on the right side. Yeah, I shoot a lot of for like 4K, then I shoot a lot of slow mo. So
Slow mo 1080. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so look, this transition already feels different.
Right.
It's like the colors, like I'm not even talking about what is happening with with the scenes, just the changing of color is already changing the perception. So
Right.
these are 2 different ways that you can like start creating, and yeah, like just becoming creative by working with the color. And we haven't even touched lumetri so far in these clips. Now that said, I love to play with color and how the whole sequence is gonna look like along the way and along my movie. So usually this is my personal style. I love to have a lot of contrast. I love to have like super visually contrast images. So I will
Yeah.
normally pick images that will be like blue and then yellow and then green and then like jumping
Right.
all the time.
You'll force that contrast by design, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I will ask my sound engineer to create a beautiful design where the music is also like helping the contrast and helping
To
the
punctuate.
transition. And
Mm-hmm.
that's already creating that feeling like, wow, 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 what I'm seeing. And I create a lot of trailers, I produce a lot of short movies, and that's when I like create like that specific contrast between the different images that I'm putting together. Just understanding sequencing, basically. All right. I don't know if we have any questions so far. Something in the chat.
We have a lot of comments. Reverb Mike was making a few. Actually, one of the funnier. If you don't know Reverb Mike, he's a regular here at Adobe Live. He
Hey,
performs
Mike.
on Thursdays. No, and he was saying, where is it? What I want to read it. Firefly, just make it look cool. Generate, yes, and eventually, I imagine we'll get there.
Yeah.
But as and Esteban and I have talked a lot about this. Uh, Even with all of that, and even in assisted AI workflows, that emotional connection that you get making those adjustments. I mean, listen, not everyone will want to do that. But when
Yeah.
you're doing that and you're talking about how you're making these subtle adjustments and how it's making that feel change, and again, you're just adjusting these things ever so slightly to, again, kind of push you through or make those extreme contrast changes by design creatively, that never goes away for those who want to do that ultimately. And
Or
maybe
let
not everybody does.
I don't know. Let me fantasize with AI. And what if it's like I go to color.adobe.com, I choose a color selection, and then I just bring it to Premiere, and it
Mm-hmm.
automatically like it reads my footage, and it says like, oh, I suggest you to use this one and this one and this
Right,
one according to whatever like creative pattern that I gave to the software.
right, right. And why would you not investigate that? right? I mean that's the thing is there's still choice.
Oh
You're
yeah,
still making the choice, right? It,
that's
it may
that's something
make a
yeah.
suggestion.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if AI at some point will, have that feeling of like, hi, how I mix color. How do I actually do it? So maybe it will. We'll see. But yeah, that's something that I see that could be happening.
Yes.
Um, so let's jump a little bit into correcting different clips. I want to show you how I will work on some of this footage that I have here. I'm just going to bring it to my timeline and then we will create something with it.
Okay. By the way,
So
Edward Haynes, I'm just going to answer this one. He was asking, so the question is, and I assume, Edward, you're talking about from within color.adobe.com, can we color sample from this site into Photoshop? So yes, with CC libraries, you can save those color swatches that you make at color.adobe.com. Just log in with your Creative Cloud ID. You can save them to a Creative Cloud library. I think it's a drop down in the upper right hand corner of the app screen there. And then if you open up your CC libraries within Photoshop, you'll have a colors section and your swatches will be in there. And that goes the same. You'll be able to use that same one in Illustrator, I think also in InDesign, and even select from them in After Effects as well.
great.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So as I said, I just pick some random clips over here. I'm going to bring different layers. I'm actually going to create 3. I usually use 3 or more. Let's see. All right. Let's start working with the first one. So the first thing that I'm going to do, this is the one you already saw how I'll start post-processing. So before I even start jumping to, like sliders and moving things here, I want to visualize and understand what I want to change in my image. So the first thing that I see is like, okay, the sky is a little bit overexposed. I'm missing a little bit of detail on the left side, like especially the
Yeah.
corner left side. Maybe it's needed, maybe it's not. And I would love to make, like, I want to take advantage of this dramatic sky over here in this corner,
Yeah.
in this top corner. So let's actually do it. So once I already have that idea, I'm just gonna start working on that. So if I said that I want to recover the highlights, well, that's easy. Just recover highlights over here. I'm just working on my first adjustment.
Yeah.
Since I'm decreasing the highlights, I'm just gonna increase a little bit of the shadows, not that much. I'm gonna increase a little bit of contrast. And then I said I want to bring a little bit more of details here. So I'm just gonna go to my effects control. I'm going to create a 4-point polygon. I'm just gonna move it over here. Let's see how this works.
A little bit of color masking. By the way, yeah, that was one of Reverb Mike's comments. Adjustment layers for the win.
Yeah.
He's on to you, Esteban.
Yep. I know.
All right.
I know.
Yeah, and also a couple of big hellos from Arush Chitale. Arush, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Fools TP, thank you so much for joining. Toilar HD, great to have you with us. All right.
Yeah, I love that. I actually look. I'm bringing some detail here. Like I feel there is information here, and I kind of like it. So of course, if I would just leave this mask over like that, look how ugly it looks. So how I'm gonna fix it? I'm just gonna go to my mask feather over here, and I'm just gonna. I usually go like 800. I love to be super exaggerated with that, so it will transition super smoothly.
Yeah.
And then I have it. Like, look how beautiful it's looking. And then I said that I wanted to bring a little bit more of dramatic sky. So perfect. I can go to my mask over here. I'm just gonna create another one. I'm gonna bring it up here. I want to make this sky super, super dramatic.
And I just a couple of weeks ago, I did a color stream where I was showing basically selective color masking, and I think, and admittedly, I know for some, we'd like to see a bit more in the masking arena, but for these kinds of things that you're doing here, this is so effective. Right?
Oh yeah.
And this is, and it's quick. And particularly, I love. So let me ask you, the sort of stacked adjustment layer, is this pretty common for you in terms of how you're tending to work with the grades, as opposed to, because I know you can also add multiple lumetries in the panel, and that gets a little confusing. I like this method of using multiple adjustment layers.
Look, and you're touching a point that is really important. These are just workflows, and there is not a single way to do one thing right. Like I think the important thing is the outcome, like how it looks at the very end.
Right.
So of course people will say like, oh, but people do it faster doing this. Like this is how I love to work. This is my workflow. So yes, the answer is yes. That's how I actually do it. Um, so let me just show you. Uh, I want to I want to mute this. So this is how. Right, I'm muting. This is how it was looking before. This is how it's looking after. So basically, what I'm doing. I keep choosing the wrong one. So basically, this is how I started. This is how it's looking now. This is how I started. This is how it's looking now. I recover a
Yeah.
little bit of detail. I made it more dramatic. I recovered that. To me, maybe I will just go back to my original layer, adjustment layer. I will add a little bit of contrast over here, and then it's done. To me, that's how I'll post-process this clip. Maybe, but I'm gonna see it later if I will make it like warmer or not with the temperature. All right, I'm gonna jump to my next one. That's gonna be really different. I love this. This clip is super challenging. Let me just bring my adjustment layer and make 3 copies. Cool.
Yeah, and Full CP is saying, so if it works by using multiple adjustment layers, that makes things way easier. I was previously trying to use different instances of Lumetri on the same adjustment layer to replicate nodes like the ones in Resolve, and the masking thing made it difficult. Yeah, I mean, I'll even speak to that too. I've shown it on here actually, Esteban, just making
Mm-hmm.
additional Lumetri instances
Mm-hmm.
on the same clip.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's a time I imagine when you want that, but this method actually it makes more sense. It makes more sense, and it's probably a little lighter too, just in terms of navigating and knowing. Just again, it can be a little confusing the way that the stacked
The stack,
lumetries.
yeah.
The stack is very obvious, so that's really great. That's awesome.
Well, I'm glad. So look, this one again, same thing. Like I'm just looking at the image, and I feel like okay, I love many things about this one, but it's like I want to increase the general brightness. No,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm gonna start processing this one the other way around. I want to bring more brightness on his face and his hands, but I want to darken the background so it will be even more dramatic.
Okay.
So I'm not going to start by the general ones. I'm going to start by my second layer, adjustment layer, and I'm going to go directly to my effect controls, and I'm going to create a ellipse mask. I'm going to bring it to his face over here. Okay, good.
So this was actually from a video clip. This piece.
Yeah.
I all this time, I'm sure I'd seen it, but because you have the image on the site,
Yeah.
I always assumed this was from a still. This was
Oh,
from video.
so there are two. Like I could
You
have two
have
ways.
both. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when I can just go and switch between
Sure,
like
sure,
the profile
sure.
colors.
But
That's
even still, I mean, the shot it's again beautifully exposed. It's the color. It's just. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous shot.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I know we have like your audience is like all like we have like super pro editors. I just want to mention basic stuff in case that someone is like, ah, how is he doing that? So I just
Yeah.
created a mask over here in my effect control panel, and I just applied it. I just increased it, and if you see, because I have seen this question many times, if I don't do like if I don't feather the mask, it's gonna have this really tough like I don't know, oh my god, Windows. Um, you see all this, like the edge of the whole thing.
Right. Yep.
So I don't want to have it. So that's why again I go to my mask feather and I create like an 800 one, and then I
Yeah.
have like, all right, I start having something like that. I started liking that, and then since I'm already controlling the light on his face, I can go to the basic one, and then I can underexpose the general thing,
Yeah.
and you will see like I underexpose here, then I come to this mask, and then I
Yeah.
overexpose his face. That's looking good. I'm going to increase a little bit of contrast. Maybe I will decrease a little bit of the highlights just to make sure that it's not like overexposed. And then I'm going to create two additional ones for his hands, this ellipse mask. You don't find it funny, Jason, how in Adobe we have different names for the same tools depending on the software
Yes,
you're using?
yes, that's come up a few times. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. Well, we like to keep, we like to keep our community on their toes. You know. Um,
That's sweet.
yeah.
All right.
Jai Hind. Jai Jai Shiva Shankara.
All
It's
right.
just listening.
So I'm gonna make this maybe not 800 but 400 mask feather over here, and then I'm just gonna go to my lumetri color, and I'm going to increase the exposure on his hands for some reason. What is happening here? Okay, mask feather. Oh, okay, of course. I created two masks, so I
Yeah.
have to apply to both. Cool. There you go. All right. Let me see. Good. And then I can go again to my basics, and I can add a little bit of contrast, and there you go.
Mm-hmm. And can we
So
play that now? Can we do a little
yeah,
full screen playback of that?
of course. Uh, come on. Why it's not? Oh, full screen is not working. Of course, because we're live. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right.
Let
This
me
will
just
play
zoom
out.
in.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that
Perfect. Yeah, that's
that
that's
helps a
even
little
better.
bit.
That's even better. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's fab. And I was gonna say if you could bypass it just real quickly, so we can
Mm-hmm.
do the effects bypass.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, if you want, I mean, I don't want to run it the bypass right now because I don't want to
yeah.
start processing it.
Oh right.
That's
Yes. Yes. I
something
was
that I will do after. Yeah.
yeah, but just sort of the before and after because it's so dramatic now. And honestly, like
Yeah.
I said, I just always assumed. I didn't assume you would have captured that in video. The fact that you achieved that. Oh yeah, there you go. I mean, unbelievable.
There you go.
And it really is. Yeah, I mean, it's such a stylistic and yet natural approach. It's this is one of the things I love about the way you do this is it still feels like that's how you saw it, but your eye, your lens, that's how you see it. Like in my mind, I envision that's how you actually see it as you're doing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
for sure.
that's really really super cool.
Right. So one more time. This is before, this is after. So I just basically I'm just emphasizing on the things that I want. Then maybe I would love to include a little bit more of detail on the leaf here, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
let's not go into those details. Again,
yeah.
this is another super challenging clip, especially because these will become like super noisy. It was almost nighttime, so
Yeah.
let's go.
So hey, but as you're going there, so Fools TP is asking from Twitch, does it make sense to nest the clips to their own sequence once they have a ton of adjustment layers on them? Is this something you do?
Not really. Depending on the project that I'm working, I will nest them or not.
Mm-hmm.
If this is like a minute clip, I will not. I will just
No,
keep it
right.
like that.
And that's what I was going to say. I guess it depends on sort of length and if you're kind of, okay, this is locked. I'm not changing this. I want to just, I could see a reason doing it for something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, in the shorter duration, it probably, I mean, you could do it, but it just adds a little more complexity if you have to go back and make a change in terms of
Yeah, because
navigation.
here I feel. I mean, I don't know. Like when I learned color, I was using Photoshop. So, but yeah, when I started back in college, it was like we will have to make a lot of layers. So I really got to the system of layers,
Yeah,
and I love to be able to access to all of them
right.
as soon as I want to make a change.
As soon
But
as you want them. Another question from Gino. Would you use HSL for this type of masking?
um, I could I could use HSL. Use like the thing is that HSL is this panel over here. The thing is that I still don't want to define the intention of the whole clip, of the whole
Right.
sequence. I'm just working clip by clip. And then whenever I will play it together, I will see the difference between, let's actually just do the exercise with these two.
Yeah.
Let's just trim this over here, bring it here. There you go. What happens if we put these two together? All right, first I will make sure to cut a little bit over here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I feel how you feel it. I feel the color is working good in this too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's still, because I already like I'm applying kind of the same style, same like from capture to post processing. I feel it's working. Of course, it
Yeah.
needs a little bit of stabilization over here.
Yeah.
Um,
But you do have sort of those, again, complementary, sort of earthy tonalities between both. It feels like a natural cut progression there. You're pushing the envelope with the contrast in this second
yeah.
shot, but it does. It feels it just feels right. Yeah.
So when
you
will
know.
I like play with the HSL colors? Whenever the clips are not matching between
Yeah.
them, then I will try to like, okay, let's bring a little bit, like let's make the shadows. Let's make, like I will not. I mean, I will play with the colors wheel with the
Yeah.
with the HSL panel. Like I will play with all of this, all of my options over here to try to make them balance. But honestly, I don't want to make my life super complicated from the very beginning.
Right.
Like if I can get it just done with adjustment layers, that's all for me.
And
Um,
and
yeah,
as we're going
go
into
for it.
this last one, because we got about 4 minutes, and I want you to tackle this shot.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I know, dude. Time flies. And this is sort of a multi-answer question because you could chalk it up to a few things. But what is the biggest cause of video noise? And again, you were shooting Sony with this, so I'd say, well, you could go to 56K ISO, right?
Yeah,
It's noise free, but so I mean, there's obviously multiple factors involved in
yeah.
video
There are
noise.
basically there are two things that I have seen with Sony cameras. Either you're using a really high ISO, like this one. This is like after sunset, almost like almost completely
Right.
pitch dark in the middle of the desert. So I'm just really forcing it. Or the other one is that you're using LUTs. Sorry, S-Log. So if you're
Right.
using S-Log, you have to make sure that the exposure is absolutely perfect. Like stick to
Yep.
the 800 ISO.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just gonna create so much noise that. So
And I think
again,
that's something a lot of people run into, right? Because it's hard. It's harder in S-Log to potentially expose properly if you're not really using all the metering to your advantage, or you're again new to that.
mhm.
And then you have diminishing returns in the post-processing phase. On top of right, like, and I don't know if you were shooting this again, being a Sony, maybe it was 12,800 ISO, or
Yeah, probably.
probably, yeah. Um,
I don't even look
there,
at my ISO when I just have to get the shot. I don't care.
right,
Like, of course, I
right,
care that it's the lowest ISO as low as I
as
can,
possible, sure, yep,
but I
yep,
don't care, like what ISO I'm shooting because in the end, it's just like whatever I need to get the shot.
yeah,
All right, I was just trying to, like we have like 1 minute left. We will have to do another color session, I feel. Well, you guys let us know if you would like another color session, and we can do it. But yeah, I just wanted to show you really quickly how I'm matching the colors of my sequence so far.
nice. Yeah,
Still
everybody's
making,
commenting on the boy's eyes, by the way, and just the contrast of the
yeah.
green on
So
that
you
shot too.
see how like red and these like like colors like kind of, and then the blue over here, and then the guy with the blue eyes and the green, and then like this sunset. I'm already creating something. If I include some dramatic music, some epic music that you can find maybe on
Yeah,
Adobe stock, or like you got it, like you're already having something that is working with color. And that's
yeah,
how I like to work my color in my clips.
I
There
love
is
it.
still so much to see, Jason. What I will
Yeah,
do.
we're gonna have to. Well, I will obviously. We're gonna have you back multiple times, and this was so great having you. One final thought. We've got like a minute and a half here. So, and people are asking. So they've seen you do things with really the basic controls. You're not dipping into LUTs. You're not relying on sort
Yeah.
of the nothing that there's wrong with that, but you're really working with. You started at a good place, and now you're just trying to continue that artistic vision. Is that your general method of grading? Do you recommend this? Because I think people also oftentimes too. They're like, oh, I need to do levels, I need to do curves, I need to do all these things. Do you need to do all those things usually?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
That's my
Yeah.
philosophy.
I love it. I love it. That's a great philosophy and a great way to end. Oh,
Keep it
one more thought.
simple. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
it simple before in post processing, but put a lot of thought when you're filming.
Yes. That's the key,
Yeah.
right? I had a professor in college used to say, you got to pre-produce to reproduce. That sounds slightly profane. It is not. We're talking about production. You got to do your pre-production so that your post-production is just easier and better. That's really what that means. Esteban, thank you so much for joining the
Been a pleasure.
stream. Great to see you, man. And to everyone else, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we will see you again on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.